The importance of perspective cannot be overstated. The way we see the world, ourselves, and the challenges we face shapes our reality. Perspective is the lens through which we interpret events, and it has the power to either empower or limit us. It is easy to get trapped in a fixed mindset, where we view our circumstances as permanent, unchangeable, or out of our control. However, perspective is fluid. It is something that we can choose to shift, refine, and expand. A simple change in perspective can transform how we approach problems, how we relate to others, and how we experience our lives. When we find ourselves stuck in a negative cycle or struggling with a difficult situation, the first step is often to examine our perspective. In many cases, we focus on what is not working, what we don't have, or what we are missing. This mindset of lack can easily lead to frustration, despair, or a sense of helplessness. But by consciously shifting our focus to what we can control or what we have, we begin to see things in a different light. The challenges we face may not disappear, but the way we relate to them changes. Instead of feeling overwhelmed, we might begin to see them as opportunities for growth, learning, or even as stepping stones to something greater. By recognizing that our perspective is not fixed, we open the door to change and possibility. A powerful shift in perspective involves looking at setbacks as lessons rather than failures. It is easy to become discouraged when things don't go as planned or when we encounter roadblocks. Our first instinct might be to blame ourselves, others, or even external circumstances. However, when we step back and adopt a growth mindset, we can reframe these challenges as valuable lessons. Each obstacle we encounter teaches us something new, whether it is about our own abilities, our strengths, or areas where we need to improve. Instead of seeing setbacks as a reflection of our limitations, we can view them as necessary parts of the process that will ultimately lead to greater success. A shift in perspective from failure to learning can change our entire approach to life and make us more resilient in the face of adversity. Another way perspective influences our lives is through the way we view other people. It's easy to judge others based on their actions, appearance, or circumstances, especially when we don't fully understand their situation. However, adopting a more empathetic perspective can completely change how we relate to others. When we recognize that everyone has their own unique struggles, challenges, and experiences, we become more compassionate and open-minded. Rather than reacting with frustration or judgment, we begin to respond with understanding and kindness. This shift in perspective can improve our relationships, create a sense of connection, and foster a more supportive environment in both our personal and professional lives. Perspective also plays a crucial role in how we view ourselves. It is easy to fall into the trap of self-criticism, especially when we make mistakes or fall short of our expectations. We may focus on our perceived flaws or compare ourselves to others, leading to feelings of inadequacy or self-doubt. However, by shifting our perspective, we can learn to appreciate our strengths, accomplishments, and unique qualities. Instead of defining ourselves by our mistakes or failures, we can define ourselves by our resilience, our growth, and our ability to overcome challenges. When we see ourselves through a lens of compassion and understanding, we begin to embrace our imperfections as part of our human experience. This shift in perspective allows us to build a healthier sense of self-worth and to approach life with greater confidence. Moreover, perspective shapes how we navigate the complexities of life. Life is rarely straightforward, and we often encounter unexpected twists, turns, and challenges. When faced with adversity, it is natural to focus on the negative aspects of the situation. However, by choosing to shift our perspective, we can begin to see the positives even in difficult circumstances. For example, a job loss might be viewed as a setback, but it could also be seen as an opportunity to explore new career paths or to pursue a passion that has been neglected. A relationship ending could be seen as painful, but it could also provide the space for personal growth and the chance to create healthier, more fulfilling connections in the future. By broadening our perspective, we create room for possibility and change, allowing us to adapt and thrive no matter what life throws our way. Perspective also influences our ability to find meaning in our experiences. While it can be difficult to understand the reasons behind certain events or hardships, the way we frame these experiences can determine how we move forward. Some people may experience trauma or hardship and feel trapped by it, while others may find meaning or purpose through it. This difference is often rooted in perspective. Those who find meaning in their experiences are often able to extract lessons, growth, or new insights from even the most painful moments. They might see their struggles as opportunities to develop resilience, to become more empathetic, or to deepen their understanding of themselves and the world around them. Perspective allows us to find meaning in the midst of chaos and to use our experiences as a source of strength and wisdom. Finally, perspective is not just about how we view the world, but also how we interact with it. Our perspective affects the choices we make, the opportunities we pursue, and the risks we are willing to take. When we view the world as a place of abundance and opportunity, we are more likely to take action, to step out of our comfort zones, and to seize new possibilities. On the other hand, when we view the world through a lens of scarcity or limitation, by choosing a perspective of abundance, we open ourselves up to a world full of potential and possibility, where we are not constrained by fear or doubt. Perspective empowers us to see opportunities where others see obstacles and to take bold steps toward the life we want to create. In the end, the power of perspective lies in its ability to transform the way we experience life. It influences how we respond to challenges, how we relate to others, and how we view ourselves. By choosing to shift our perspective, we unlock new possibilities, deepen our understanding, and embrace a more fulfilling and meaningful life. Embracing personal responsibility is one of the most empowering actions we can take in our lives. It is the recognition that we are in charge of our own choices, our actions, and our reactions, regardless of the circumstances or external forces that may try to influence us. In a world where we are often taught to blame others, society, or even fate for our challenges, the idea of accepting full responsibility for our lives can seem daunting or counterintuitive. However, personal responsibility is not about taking on blame or guilt. It is about recognizing that we have the power to shape our own destinies. When we embrace responsibility, we stop being victims of our circumstances and become active participants in creating the life we want to lead. Taking personal responsibility starts with recognizing that we have control over our thoughts, feelings, and actions. While we cannot always control what happens to us, we can control how we respond. This realization is incredibly liberating because it means that no one else can dictate our emotional state or determine our happiness. When we accept responsibility for our reactions, we stop giving away our power to external factors. Instead of allowing our emotions to be influenced by the actions or opinions of others, we take charge of how we feel and how we choose to act. For example, if someone criticizes us, we have the choice to either internalize that criticism and let it affect our self-esteem, or to respond calmly, choosing not to let it define us. Embracing personal responsibility means we choose how we respond rather than being at the mercy of others' actions. A key aspect of embracing personal responsibility is acknowledging that our past does not dictate our future. We are all shaped by our experiences, but we are not bound by them. It is easy to fall into the trap of using past mistakes, failures, or traumas as excuses for not moving forward. We might tell ourselves, I failed once, so I'll always fail, or this happened to me, so I can't change. But when we accept responsibility, we recognize that the past is merely a series of events that have passed. It is how we respond to those events, how we learn from them and grow, that truly defines us. Accepting responsibility means taking ownership of the choices we make in the present, regardless of the challenges we have faced in the past. It means understanding that we have the ability to create a new path for ourselves, no matter where we have come from. In addition to taking responsibility for our own thoughts and actions, embracing personal responsibility also means recognizing that we are responsible for the impact we have on others. Every interaction, every conversation, and every relationship is a reflection of our actions and behavior. When we act with integrity, respect, and empathy, we contribute positively to the lives of those around us. However, when we fail to take responsibility for our actions, we may inadvertently hurt others, creating conflict, misunderstandings, or resentment. Personal responsibility means being accountable not just to ourselves, but to those we interact with. It is about owning up to our mistakes and making amends when necessary. It is about understanding that our actions have consequences, both for ourselves and for others, and that we must live with those consequences. When we are responsible for our impact on others, we become more thoughtful and intentional in our behavior, which leads to healthier, more meaningful relationships. Another crucial aspect of personal responsibility is the willingness to be accountable for our goals and ambitions. It's easy to make excuses for why we haven't achieved what we want in life, whether it's because of circumstances, other people, or lack of resources. However, when we take full responsibility for our goals, we stop waiting for the perfect conditions or external validation. Instead, we take proactive steps toward achieving what we want, regardless of the challenges. Personal responsibility means that we are no longer waiting for someone else to make things happen for us. We recognize that it is up to us to take the necessary actions to move closer to our aspirations. This might mean working hard, learning new skills, or even stepping out of our comfort zones. It is through this active engagement with our goals that we build the life we desire, one choice at a time. Taking responsibility also requires us to be honest with ourselves about our limitations. It's easy to pretend that we are always in control or that we have all the answers, but this is not the reality of being human. Embracing responsibility means recognizing when we need help, when we need to learn, or when we need to adjust our approach. It means acknowledging our weaknesses and working to improve them instead of pretending they don't exist. This type of honesty allows us to grow and evolve, as it opens the door to self-improvement. We must be willing to look at ourselves objectively without judgment or shame and ask, what do I need to change? What can I do differently to move forward? Accepting responsibility for our limitations does not diminish us. Rather, it empowers us to make the necessary changes to overcome them. Moreover, embracing personal responsibility involves accepting the reality that we will not always succeed and that failure is an inevitable part of life. However, when we take responsibility for our failures, we view them not as an end, but as a valuable part of the learning process. Instead of blaming external factors for our failures, we reflect on what went wrong, take ownership of our mistakes, and use the experience to grow. This mindset shift is crucial because it removes the fear of failure from the equation and allows us to approach life with a sense of courage and resilience. When we embrace responsibility, we are no longer paralyzed by the possibility of making mistakes. Instead, we view each challenge as an opportunity to learn, adapt, and become stronger. Ultimately, embracing personal responsibility is about taking control of our lives, recognizing our power to shape our future, and understanding that we are the creators of our own destiny. It is about acknowledging that while we cannot control everything that happens to us, we can control how we respond, how we learn, and how we grow. Taking responsibility is the foundation of personal empowerment, self-respect, and authentic success. It is through this responsibility that we unlock our true potential and step into the lives we are meant to lead. Transforming adversity into growth is one of the most powerful skills we can develop. Life is filled with challenges, some expected, some unexpected, that can test our resilience and character. It is easy to fall into the trap of seeing adversity as a series of setbacks or obstacles that limit our potential. Many of us find ourselves questioning why bad things happen, why we must endure pain, or why things aren't going as planned. These moments of difficulty can feel overwhelming, and at times it might seem as though they are insurmountable. However, adversity, while painful, carries the seeds of transformation. It is in the most difficult times that we are often pushed to change, to grow, and to become stronger than we ever imagined possible. The process of turning adversity into growth begins with a shift in perspective. Instead of viewing challenges as roadblocks, we can choose to see them as opportunities for development. This shift is not an easy one. It requires us to move beyond the natural human response of avoidance, frustration, or resignation. It requires us to embrace discomfort, to recognize that our greatest growth often comes when we are forced out of our comfort zones. When we confront challenges head-on, we begin to develop the mental and emotional muscles necessary to overcome even more significant hurdles in the future. Each time we face adversity, we gain new insights into ourselves, our strengths, and our ability to navigate difficult circumstances. Adversity forces us to question the status quo, to examine our beliefs, values, and habits. When everything is going smoothly, it is easy to take things for granted. We may become complacent, living life on autopilot, without fully appreciating the lessons that can be learned from discomfort. However, when we face adversity, we are forced to pay attention. We are given the chance to reevaluate how we approach life, how we respond to challenges and what truly matters. This process of reflection is crucial because it enables us to make conscious choices about how we will grow and evolve. We might realize, for instance, that certain aspects of our lives no longer align with our values, or that there are areas where we need to change our approach. Adversity can serve as a mirror, reflecting back to us the aspects of our lives that need attention or transformation. One of the key aspects of turning adversity into growth is developing resilience. Resilience is the ability to bounce back from setbacks, to adapt, and to keep moving forward in the face of adversity. It is not about avoiding pain or hardship, but about learning how to persevere despite it. Resilience involves cultivating a mindset that is focused on solutions rather than problems. Instead of dwelling on the difficulties we face, resilient individuals focus on what they can control, what they can learn, and how they can move forward. This mindset allows them to remain steady in the face of challenges and to maintain a sense of hope and optimism even when circumstances seem bleak. Resilience is not something that comes naturally to everyone, but it can be developed over time through practice and intention. Building resilience involves recognizing that adversity is a part of life, not something to be feared or avoided. The more we accept this truth, the more we can prepare ourselves to handle whatever challenges come our way. Resilient individuals do not see failure as an endpoint, but as a learning opportunity. Every setback becomes a lesson that informs their future actions. For example, a person who faces financial hardship might learn to become more disciplined with their spending, or someone who experiences a difficult relationship might develop greater empathy and communication skills. Instead of being broken by adversity, they are shaped by it, becoming stronger, wiser, and more capable of handling future challenges. Another important aspect of transforming adversity into growth is the ability to embrace vulnerability. Vulnerability is often seen as a weakness, but in reality, it is a powerful tool for growth. When we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, we open ourselves to learning and transformation. Vulnerability allows us to acknowledge our limitations, to seek help when needed, and to be open to new perspectives. It is only by embracing vulnerability that we can truly grow and evolve. In times of adversity, it is essential to recognize that we do not have to face challenges alone. Reaching out for support, whether from friends, family, or professionals, is not a sign of weakness, but an acknowledgement that we are all human and that we all need help at times. It is through connection and vulnerability that we often find the strength to move through hardship and emerge stronger. Adversity also provides us with the opportunity to practice patience and perseverance. When things don't go as planned, it is easy to become frustrated, angry, or disillusioned. However, these emotions, while natural, do not help us move forward. Instead of reacting impulsively, we can choose to pause, reflect, and take measured steps toward progress. Patience allows us to see the bigger picture, to understand that challenges are often temporary and that our efforts will eventually pay off. Perseverance is the commitment to keep going even when the road ahead seems long and uncertain. Together, patience and perseverance create the foundation for long-term growth. They help us stay focused on our goals even when obstacles seem insurmountable. Finally, one of the most profound aspects of adversity is that it can deepen our sense of gratitude. When we experience hardship, we often develop a greater appreciation for the good things in our lives. Adversity teaches us not to take things for granted, to value the small moments, and to recognize the beauty in even the most challenging circumstances. Through adversity, we learn to be more compassionate toward ourselves and others. As we come to understand that everyone is fighting their own battles, this deepened sense of gratitude allows us to find meaning and purpose in even the most difficult situations. And it fuels our growth in ways that would not have been possible without the adversity itself. The power of setting boundaries cannot be overstated. Boundaries are the invisible lines that define where we end and where others begin. They represent our personal space, our values, and our limits. Setting boundaries is an essential part of maintaining our mental, emotional, and physical well-being. Yet for many people, the act of setting boundaries can feel uncomfortable, even foreign. Society often teaches us to prioritize the needs of others over our own, to be accommodating, to say yes when we want to say no, and to avoid confrontation at all costs. As a result, we may find ourselves in situations where our time, energy, and resources are drained, and we are left feeling resentful, overwhelmed, and undervalued. Without boundaries, we open ourselves up to being manipulated, taken advantage of, or ignored. But when we learn to establish and maintain healthy boundaries, we reclaim our power and protect our well-being. Setting boundaries is not about being rigid, controlling, or selfish. Rather, it is about recognizing our own needs and honoring them. It is about being clear with ourselves and others about what we are willing to tolerate and what we are not. Boundaries are about self-respect. They signal to others that we value ourselves enough to protect our time, energy, and emotions. When we fail to set boundaries, we often end up compromising our own well-being to please others. And in doing so, we lose sight of what truly matters to us. Over time, this can lead to feelings of burnout, frustration, and resentment. Setting boundaries helps us avoid these negative outcomes by allowing us to preserve our emotional and mental health while fostering healthier relationships with others. One of the biggest challenges in setting boundaries is the fear of rejection or disapproval. Many people are afraid that if they assert their needs, others will think they are being difficult, selfish, or unkind. The fear of disappointing others or causing conflict often leads us to put others' needs first and ignore our own. This can be especially true in close relationships where we may feel guilty for saying no to a family member, friend, or partner. However, the truth is that when we fail to set boundaries, we are doing a disservice to both ourselves and the people around us. Without boundaries, we become overwhelmed, resentful, and eventually exhausted, which makes us less able to show up for others in a meaningful way. By setting clear boundaries, we not only protect ourselves, but also create space for healthier, more respectful relationships. Setting boundaries also requires a deep level of self-awareness. To know where to draw the line, we must first understand our own values, needs, and limits. This requires us to spend time reflecting on what we truly want and what we are willing to tolerate. It involves being honest with ourselves about what drains us, what lifts us up, and what makes us feel respected and valued. Once we gain this awareness, we can begin to set boundaries that align with our values and protect our energy. This process is not always easy, and it may require us to make difficult choices or have uncomfortable conversations. But it is through these conversations and decisions that we begin to take control of our lives and ensure that we are living in a way that is aligned with our true selves. One of the most important aspects of boundary setting is consistency. Boundaries are not something we can set once and forget about. They require ongoing effort and attention. It is easy to set a boundary in a moment of clarity, but it is much harder to enforce it over time, especially when others push back. People may try to test or ignore our boundaries, and it can be tempting to let them slide for the sake of avoiding conflict or maintaining harmony. But when we do this, we undermine our own sense of self-respect and teach others that our boundaries are negotiable. Enforcing boundaries with consistency shows that we are serious about protecting our well-being and that we expect others to respect our needs. Another aspect of boundary setting is learning to say no. For many people, saying no feels like an act of rebellion or failure. We may fear that saying no will make us seem unkind, uncooperative, or selfish. However, saying no is one of the most powerful ways to protect our time. It allows us to prioritize what is truly important to us and to avoid overcommitting ourselves. It also teaches others to respect our time and space. Saying no is not about rejecting others. It is about honoring our own needs. When we say no with clarity and confidence, we send a message that we value ourselves enough to protect our well-being. The process of setting boundaries is a form of self-care, but it is also a form of self-respect. When we set boundaries, we are essentially telling ourselves that we matter, that our needs are valid, and that we deserve to be treated with dignity and respect. Boundaries protect our emotional, mental, and physical health, and they create the space for us to engage in relationships and activities that are genuinely nourishing. While setting boundaries may feel uncomfortable at first, it is ultimately an act of self-love. It is a way of honoring who we are, what we need, and what we are willing to tolerate. As we practice setting boundaries, we not only protect our own well-being, but also cultivate more meaningful, authentic relationships with others. Recognizing self-worth is one of the most transformative processes in any person's life. It is an internal realization that goes beyond external validation and allows you to align with your true potential. Yet, this understanding doesn't come easily. Many people struggle with self-worth because it is often shaped by external influences. family expectations, societal pressures. We look to others to determine how we feel about ourselves, giving them power over our emotional state. This, however, is a dangerous way to live. When we base our sense of worth on external validation, we remain at the mercy of others' perceptions, which can fluctuate, leading us to feel unsteady, insecure, or undervalued. True self-worth, on the other hand, comes from within. It is the ability to recognize your intrinsic value, to affirm that you are worthy of respect, kindness, and dignity, regardless of what anyone else thinks. To recognize self-worth, we must first unlearn the habit of seeking validation from others. It's easy to fall into the trap of needing approval, especially when we are conditioned from a young age to seek praise or acknowledgement. But when we constantly seek validation, we place our happiness in the hands of others. We live in a world that often rewards external achievements and appearances, and it's easy to get caught up in the race for success or approval. Yet, when we fail to look inward, we miss the point that our value is not dependent on external factors. It is intrinsic, constant, and unshakable. Learning to recognize your self-worth is about accepting yourself as you are without needing anyone to define you. It's about understanding that you are enough simply by being. This process of recognizing self-worth requires a shift in mindset. It demands that we break free from the chains of comparison. We live in a society that constantly compares us to others, whether it's in terms of wealth, status, appearance, or achievement. Social media has only exacerbated this tendency, making it easy to measure ourselves against the carefully curated lives of others. But comparison is a thief. It steals our peace and contentment. The moment we compare ourselves to others, we forget that everyone's journey is different. What we see on the surface is rarely the whole story, and even if it were, it wouldn't make a difference to our own path. Each person has unique strengths, challenges, and experiences, which means that comparing ourselves to anyone else is an exercise in futility. When we focus on comparison, we give up the opportunity to recognize our own worth and abilities. We forget to value our own progress and achievements. Another important aspect of recognizing self-worth is learning to set healthy boundaries. Boundaries are a direct reflection of how we value ourselves. When we allow others to treat us poorly or encroach on our time and energy without consideration, we send a message to ourselves that we are not worthy of respect or care. Setting boundaries is not about being rigid or defensive. It's about knowing where to draw the line and saying no when necessary. It's about respecting our own needs and honoring our feelings. When we fail to set boundaries, we give others permission to walk over us, and over time, this erodes our sense of self-worth. However, when we actively create and maintain boundaries, we send a clear message to both ourselves and others that we are worthy of respect and consideration. Recognizing self-worth also involves confronting the negative self-talk that many of us carry. The inner critic, the voice that tells us we are not good enough, smart enough, attractive enough, can be incredibly destructive. These negative thoughts can take root over years of conditioning, past experiences, or failures, making it hard to feel confident in ourselves. However, recognizing your worth requires challenging these limiting beliefs. It requires replacing self-criticism with self-compassion. When we make mistakes, we need to remember that failure is not a reflection of our worth as a person. Mistakes are part of growth, not an indication of inadequacy. Being kind to ourselves, especially during difficult moments, is crucial to building a healthy sense of self-worth. It's important to remember that we are deserving of the same love, understanding, and grace that we offer to others. At its core, recognizing self-worth is about embracing who we are, flaws and all. It's about acknowledging that we have strengths and weaknesses, but that neither defines our value. We are not defined by our successes or failures, but by our ability to remain true to ourselves. When we recognize our worth, we stop measuring ourselves by others' standards and start measuring ourselves by our own. We stop looking for approval and begin to approve of ourselves. This is not a process that happens overnight. It is a lifelong journey of self-acceptance, growth, and self-love. But once we begin to recognize our true value, we unlock the potential to live a life that is aligned with our deepest desires and purpose, free from the need for external validation. Ladies and gentlemen, let's begin with a truth. It's hard to face, but essential to understand. Disrespect is not merely an external force, something imposed on us by others. No, it is often a mirror. It reflects something within ourselves, a decision we've made, consciously or unconsciously, to tolerate it for far too long. Disrespect in many ways serves as a wake-up call, a jarring signal that something in our lives is out of alignment, that we are allowing something to occur that should not be tolerated. When we are disrespected, it's not just a momentary irritation or a fleeting inconvenience. It's an opportunity, one that often requires us to stop, reflect, and reconsider the direction in which we are headed. The presence of disrespect, especially when it comes from those we care about or respect, can be deeply painful. But if we are brave enough to look past the emotional sting and discomfort, we might find that it is, in fact, a profound gift. It tells us that we have allowed something to go too far, that we have either accepted less than we deserve or failed to assert our value in some way. Disrespect is not an isolated event. It is often the culmination of subtle signs, small slights, and unspoken compromises that over time become more blatant. At first, we may not notice them, or perhaps we are willing to dismiss them as trivial, but eventually disrespect grows louder, more evident, and harder to ignore. It is at this moment, when the accumulation of these disrespectful actions or words reaches its peak, that we are forced to confront a choice. Do we continue to tolerate this behavior, resigning ourselves to the idea that it is just a part of life, or do we take it as a catalyst for change? Disrespect, when it manifests with intensity, forces us to pause and ask ourselves important questions. Why have I allowed this? What does this say about the boundaries I've set, or more accurately, the boundaries I have failed to set? And what is the cost of not acting? The wake-up call is not about the other person or the specific incident itself. It's about us. It's about our unwillingness to accept behavior that doesn't align with our values, our sense of self-worth, or our vision for how we deserve to be treated. This is where the real transformation begins. For too long, we may have been passive in the face of disrespect, perhaps believing that it was easier to ignore or avoid conflict than to assert our needs and desires. But disrespect, when it becomes undeniable, can no longer be ignored. It forces us to confront the truth about ourselves, about how we view our worth, our needs, and our right to be treated with dignity. At its core, disrespect challenges our self-concept. It demands that we examine the stories we have been telling ourselves about who we are and what we deserve. For many, these stories are shaped by past experiences, by the people around us, and by the messages we internalize from society. We might believe that we are not worthy of standing up for ourselves, that our needs are less important than those of others, or that we should put up with mistreatment to avoid rocking the boat. But disrespect shatters these illusions, forcing us to see that we do in fact have value. It invites us to recognize that we have the power, the agency, and the right to demand respect, to set boundaries, and to walk away from situations that devalue us. In this way, disrespect becomes a mirror. It reflects back to us the gaps between our current state and the person we are capable of becoming. It reveals where we have compromised, where we have failed to protect ourselves, and where we have settled for less than we are worth. And while this can be uncomfortable and even painful to confront, it also offers us a chance to grow. The moment we realize that we are tolerating disrespect, we have an opportunity to change our behavior, to raise our standards, and to redefine what we will and will not accept. This moment of awakening can be transformative, pushing us toward a deeper understanding of who we are and what we are capable of. Disrespect, then, serves a dual purpose. It both reveals the areas in our lives where we need to assert ourselves more strongly and invites us to become more aligned with our true selves. It shows us where we have been passive and complacent, where we have allowed others to dictate our worth, and where we need to take control. Rather than viewing disrespect as something to be avoided or feared, we can begin to see it as a powerful tool for personal growth, a necessary disruption that pushes us toward the person we